Now, going back a moment, let's look at the right to protest in and of itself. Where do you draw the line when it comes to public health? And what are the responsibilities of the government versus the public? Joining us with answers is columnist for Newsweek and editor of HistoryCentral.com, Marc Schulman. Marc, it's been a long time. How are you?
Doing fine, considering everything that's going on in this country at the moment.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. So Marc, first impression, should the protests be illegal as they were made?
No, they should not be taking place, but they should not be illegal. And that's always been my view. I've said more than once and twice in the last couple of weeks that they should stop protesting just as a dugma ishit, example to everybody else of how you should behave, because I think it's a bad example because we're in a national crisis. The situation with Corona is very, very dangerous. And I thought they should be calling off of demonstrations because it just doesn't look good. As they would say in Yiddish, Pashnish. It just doesn't look good to have all these demonstrations taking place. On the other hand, I think it's very problematic when the government starts making the demonstrations illegal. We're the only country in the world, democratic country, I take that back, in the world that have limited demonstrations during a period of Corona. So I think it's sort of, it goes one way and it goes the other. And by limiting the demonstrations, they've actually brought out more demonstrators because people are really, go ahead.
No, so this kind of brings me to my next question. What is the solution then? Because coulda, woulda, shoulda. You can explain to the protesters that they should have the right, but they shouldn't use it. Well, they are using it. So, what is your solution to this?
Look, our problem is we have a leadership in this country that no one believes in. That's the underlying problem. 48%, 52%, you can argue the percentages, believe that everything the government or the prime minister says is a lie. And the other percentage believes the other half. We're split down the middle. It's very problematic in a time of national crisis. One of the number one things they say about fighting an epidemic is you have to have leadership that people believe in. You have to be straightforward. You have to tell the truth. And people have to believe in what's going on. Now, the problem in this country has been over the last 6 months is we've zigzagged so much that no one believes anything. A pressure group says this, okay, we're going to open up all the gyms. Another pressure group says this, oh, okay, we can fly, or we can go to hotels and fill up the hotels. So we let all these things happen, and now the only thing left was protesting in terms of what was being allowed. And so the government said, okay, on one hand, how can we possibly limit prayers if we don't limit protesting? Of course, prayers we're talking about is indoors and not outdoors. But it looks bad. How can we possibly do that? So they said, okay, the only way we can do that is possibly by limiting protests, which is very problematic.
All right, I'm not going to argue with you on the timeline of how we got to where we are, because that's a matter of record. But, hindsight is a bit 20/20. Isn't it easy to look back and criticize the government's actions against a pandemic that we really, even until today, didn't know that much about?
No, it's not easy. It's not hard. I've been doing it, if you can remember, since June, saying what the government was doing was insane. Opening the schools, letting the yeshivot open was the most insane thing that a government could possibly do. At the level of Corona that we had in this country at the time was crazy. And it's proven right, and it's proven wrong, so to speak. Look what happened. The minute we opened up the yeshivot and then opened the regular schools, the rate of infection doubled, basically, in this country. So no, all those things were clear. I mean, going back to May, April, then we didn't know a lot of things, but we certainly knew a lot by June and July, and we didn't follow through because we were afraid. The government was afraid of this, the government was afraid of that, too much pressure here, too much pressure there. So that's where we are. Now, what we needed to be done now in terms of the protest, there needed to be a sort of outreach to some of the people on the left, the quiet outreach that was necessary to be done, to try to reach out and try to see what could be done, what could be convinced. Maybe something could be done in terms of Netanyahu could say something about limiting his term. I don't know, anything that would make people a little bit happier in terms of that, to accepting the fact that this is a national crisis. In a national crisis, we all have to make sacrifices, and including protesting. We shouldn't protest in large numbers during a national crisis to the extent that it is. The media is also very responsible in this country. The media that kept on showing pictures of hotels and how can we get the best deals and how can we get the Yavan, the Greece, on top of which we very rarely show in the media stories of people who've died. They're sort of dying namelessly, facelessly. We don't seem to be following at all the fact that people are dying every single day. We don't show lines at funerals, anything, nothing at all. It's like these people don't exist. So if people don't exist, it can't be all that dangerous. Wow, so what's necessary is an overall national policy of hasbara, of explanation, of propaganda, however you want to do, national information, to explain to the population how terrible the situation really is, and to draw upon they're better sides of everybody to act accordingly. We haven't succeeded in that. We seem to excite
on
the
that
Arab
note,
sector. But
Mark, thank you so much. I appreciate you coming in and sharing your insights with us. Thank you so much. Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach.